Welcome back. Now that we've obtained our first great soul, it's time to explore a different area of Drang Lake. Before we do, however, there's some maintenance stuff I want to attend to. First of all, we're going to dig into the soul cookie jar a little bit. Use up some of the ones that we've collected and haven't cashed in on. As you can see, Melfia has relocated.
Oh, there you are. I'm here in Majula thanks entirely to you. You even were kind enough to clothe me. Thank you so very much. The only thing I can offer is pyromancy. But if that might help you, come to me.
Let's go ahead and buy her last fire seed. A strong pyromancy flame is good for everybody.
I finally tracked down my teacher. But I've decided to keep at it alone. I need to see what I can achieve by myself. Master Carillion and I are from Malfia to the south, a land lush with sorcery and pyromancy. Master Carillion polished his art at one of our renowned magic academies. But he argued that the academies were terrible places to learn magic. This quite angered Master Glocken, my previous teacher. Once Master Carillion spoke excitedly of this land. He made talk of the remnants of some great power and the deep abyss that surrounds it. I tried to ask more, but he didn't seem to hear. Oh, I'll never be good enough, will I? It was a perilous trek across the mountains. I faced the most frightful things. The number of times I nearly died. I finally tracked down the Master but he... I'm always here. So come and see me when you're in town.
Melfia, it takes like literally a minute to get to where you are from where you were.
Oh, so you finally decided to join us. Let us resume our exploration of sorcery.
Gonna go ahead and complete our set of quartz rings. There's nothing really here that we can use that we don't already have. So let's content ourselves with the ring.
Of magic and I suspect source. You scroll. I sense something akin to sorcery, only more primordial. I wish to find out more about it, but as we see, this place is in ruins. Just what happened here? Sorcery was created long, long ago. Some say it was originated by the Great Pale Being. But we've no way of knowing if such claims are true. Many sorceries were lost over the ages. Before pyromancy, there were fire sorceries, but they are long forgotten. Sorcery and pyromancy thrive in Melfia. I've spent much time there, trying to perfect my art. But staying was a mistake. The fools there had no interest in truth. Their ambitions were paltry, and their smiles cloying. I was sick to the back teeth of their petty squabbles. There was nothing for me in that forsaken land. So the girl's been here, too. I'm glad to see her safe, whatever that's worth. The forces of magic, Young pupil, Do not take my teachings lightly.
What a grouch. Speaking of grouches, let's go talk to Sultan a little bit.
Quite a hive of activity we are these days. I'd forgotten how much comfort a little companionship can bring. Once I'd lost everything, but now I am grateful for what you have taught me. It is very little, but please, take this. Have you seen them? May you find peace on your journey.
Once a sufficient number of NPCs have relocated to Majula, Sultan will give us a free soul vessel for making his life just a little bit less lonely. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that light hasn't always been there. Let's investigate. Ah, it's Licia.
Oh, hello there. An honor to see you again. This room is not as it seems. There are two, not one pathways leading out. And only this lovely thing reveals the other path. And this, you lovely thing, only runs on miracles. Shall I provide you with one?
Well, before we do that, let's see if there's any other miracles we can pick up that might be helpful. Unfortunately, most of them are pretty expensive and also above our faith level. However, I do decide to go with Great Heal Excerpt. We'll probably be able to use that pretty soon.
To cast miracles, you must have strong faith in the gods. Miracles began as tales told by gods. We preserve their will with law, pray to their greatness, and are blessed in return. You must nourish your faith. Miracles have been passed down through us since the first flame. Isn't it extraordinary to think they've existed since the very origins of the world? And now, you can have this power for yourself. Don't miss out on the road to enlightenment. What is the first flame? Well, it's... You're not ready to comprehend it, I'm afraid. You require more faith, and more miracles, many more miracles. To cast miracle, we presume
Well, it's pretty evident at this point that Licia is some sort of scam artist, but whatever the case is with this mechanism, we can't operate it, so it's not that much anyway. We only have to do it once, too.
May the power of miracles be with you. Offer your souls to the gods.
Still not keen on that, to be honest. At any rate, the path is now open to the next leg of the game. Digging deeper into the cookie jar, because there's one more person up here that we want to buy things from. This has actually been available since we talked to Licia all the way back in Hade's Tower of Flame. Just never really got around to talking to her again since then. We could also, theoretically, take the path up by where Rosabeth was petrified. I think I've actually been calling her Melfia by accident because they both sound like ladies' names. I'm really good. Well, that's rude.
The dark stirs. I see it. The dark is sparked within you. My name is Felkin. I will trade with you. What do you need? This land lies closest to the dark. That is why I came here. This kingdom collapsed long ago. All that are left are either undead or hollow. Save a few misfits like myself. I went to a great school in the south, but neither sorcery nor pyromancy appealed. I learned nothing. Nothing at all. It was there that I happened upon the dark. It drew me in, the nebulous dark. Soon I was drawn to this land where dark runs deeper than anywhere else. Hexes originated here in ancient times. They were once a form of sorcery, but the practice was lost, then later rediscovered. Those devoted to hexes are a lonely lot, but nevertheless they give their life to their art. Such is the fate of we practitioners of dark. What drew me to the dark? I do not know. Hexes are more than mere tools to me. I feel affinity and warmth, something universal, nostalgia even. Those who discover dark realize this, and they never come back. This land, all the sake of.
Well, Felkin is a pretty interesting guy. He is a vendor of hexes and hex-related materials. The Archdrake Staff and the Archdrake Chime are interesting in that they have better scaling than the default Chime and the default Catalyst, but they have lower base damage, and we can't use it right now. I'm just sort of buying one now to hold on to it for a rainy day because I think it looks kind of cool. Now, hexes are very powerful, and they work a little interestingly in terms of scaling. Now, magic damage scales linearly with intelligence, and lightning damage scales linearly with faith.
Come again, as you like. The dark is always within you.
However, dark damage scales as much as your lowest stat out of intelligence is faith. So basically, if you had 15 intelligence and 14 faith, your dark damage would scale off of your 14 faith. To make up for this, the scaling on dark damage is fairly high compared to magic damage and lightning damage, because you'll generally have less of that stat. At any rate, dark damage is actually quite powerful for a generalist character like us. Sort of getting a little bit of buyer's remorse about this Archdrake Staff. Oh well. 4,000 souls isn't that much. This handy-dandy bonfire also lets us get back to Felkin whenever we so desire. Felkin is a bit of a mystery, not the least of which because he seems to have dragged a chair all the way here. Looking at our options for weapons lately, I think it's time to go with something a little bit different. The large club. We picked this up in the Lost Bastille. We have just enough strength to use it with two hands. It's heavy enough that it puts us over the 70% equipment burden load. However, its power is undeniable. This is completely unupgraded. These mischievous bugs are moonlight butterflies. They like to generally hang out in inaccessible locations and throw poison at you, but they're not actively hostile, and they're pretty easy to deal with if you have any kind of projectile, such as this new Dark Orb Hex. They also drop poison moss at, quite frankly, an alarming rate, so if you need some of that and you don't have a lot of money, coming here and farming these guys for a little bit is not a bad idea, to be honest. Gonna go ahead and unequip the shield, because if we're two-handing this, we can't use it anyway. And that puts us right at 70%, which is still enough to roll normally. Now, the Huntsman's Copse is an area that I have a bit of a mental block about. It's not particularly hard, especially coming off of Lost Bastille, but I have issues with it. These are undead rogues. They're sort of like the Varangians and the Royal Soldiers in that they're a step up from your run-of-the-mill Hollow, and they have their unique sort of moveset and favored tools, but they're not a big deal. They're pretty fast and they can close distance quickly, and they also like to throw poison arrows at you. Now, one of the problems with super heavy weapons like the large club is that they have a tendency to sort of drag you around with them because they're so heavy. So do be careful when you're using them around ledges. The two-handed overhead swing is probably one of the most powerful attacks in the game, because not only does it do a ton of damage, it will also do a lot of poise damage against even things that normally can't be staggered. Judicious use of this attack can make a lot of fights much easier. However, the weakness of the large club is that it breaks very quickly, so let's switch to another new weapon, the bandit's knife. The bandit's knife is sort of the polar opposite of the club. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it's extremely quick. Well, that certainly looks like a secret door of some kind, but I guess it's just a quirk of the architecture. If you're having trouble seeing in that room, be sure to break the boards off the windows like I did. Without doing that, it's pretty dark. So, the bandit's knife. Very weak, very short range, has an annoying propensity to shove enemies out of its effective range. But it's not terrible. It's a dagger that scales with strength instead of dexterity, if you're into that sort of thing. And, like all daggers, you can just sort of keep swinging it forever. Also, like other daggers, it does a lot of damage on critical hits. The bandit's dagger has built-in bleed into it. Now, this used to make it, back in Dark Souls 1, a really powerful weapon, but now it's just kind of whatever. I don't like this guy. I don't like the way he's placed. I knew he was there, but I proceeded under the assumption that I didn't to show off why I think he's kind of dumb. There's literally no way to tell that there's a guy behind there. And you have no invincibility frames while opening that door if he breaks it. Well, that's one way to take care of a guy. I feel like that guy behind the door is sort of a violation of the hard but fair rule this game operates under. It's not a huge deal, and they're not hugely threatening, so I don't think I've ever died to it, but it's certainly conceivable, and I think that would be kind of shitty if it did happen. With that shortcut open and that bonfire lit, both of which kind of invalidate each other, to be honest, we're now going to do a little bit of platforming, and as is my usual policy, I like to equip my Ring of Life Protection whenever gravity is involved. Just in case. I wouldn't mess up though, right? Sometimes I mess up. Let's go ahead and try that again. Since that ring is broken, let's just go ahead and replace it with something else. You can never say no to more souls. Not really feeling PvP at the moment, so let's leave that summon sign alone. Alright, if we approach from this angle, we actually have enough clearance to make it. Do not jump to get to this. Do not actually use the jump action. You will overshoot and you will die, and it will be very sad. Now, to get back to solid ground, you do need to jump. So, get a running start and head into this cave. There's no obvious way up, so we're forced in anyway. This area is actually right underneath the sort of starting area where we saw the moonlight butterflies for the first time. There's also some shady character lurking down in the water. I'm being thwarted by lock-on, so I'm going to show off a neat trick. If you equip the binoculars, look directly at what you want to hit, and then cast a spell, there's a good chance that you'll hit your target. Not always, of course, because elevation kind of screws that strategy up a little. But it's a use for an otherwise kind of useless item, so if you feel the need to snipe with magic and not bows, you'd be doing yourself a favor to pick up the binoculars. There doesn't appear to be a way out from up here, so we're going to have to keep going down and roll off a mushroom. Memories of Tall Tall Mountain. This frightening guy is an undead executioner. Oh, I'm sorry, an undead torturer. They are a big step up from pretty much anything up to this point, really. They do a lot of damage. And to make matters worse, they have a lot of invincibility frames when they're attacking. They're not actually invincible. I mean, they have a lot of sort of, what's the way to describe this? Selective poise. If they are in the middle of an attack, they are very difficult to stagger. That's basically what I'm getting at. Fortunately, there's only one of them down here. Our reward for this detour is Ricard's Rapier. Ricard's Rapier is a nice weapon, but it requires 25 dexterity to use, so it is, like so many things, out of reach for now. This secret door is fairly obvious, so you don't get stuck down here and have to homeward bone out. Definitely not something I've ever done. What would ever give you that idea? The way back up is in this. I really gotta say that I'm impressed by how willing people in this universe are to just get into one of these things. It's just, it doesn't strike me as a very good elevator system. At any rate, we're back in the little house from before, right out of that area that we thought was a secret door, for that matter. So it actually was, it just didn't open from that direction. Combustion, the pyromancy spell I've been using, does a lot of damage, and it comes out quickly, but it has very limited range. It's sort of like a replacement for a melee weapon. It has a lot of charges to make up for that. Certainly a good deal more powerful than the knife. Backstab detection is not always perfect when used against a moving enemy. I'm trying to parry this guy, but he keeps jumping around like an idiot, so I lose patience. Losing patience is a really good way to take unnecessary damage, by the way. At any rate, with that shortcut opened up, we can go directly back to the bonfire and... Goodbye, friend. At any rate, we can head back to the bonfire and take a bit of a break. Next time we'll tackle the rest of this area, but for now, I'll talk to you later.